Hey, good morning, afternoon, and evening, wherever you are in the world, and good to see you guys. Alicia, hello from Alberta. I bet it's cold there. It's cold here in California. It must be really cold there. And we had some rain last night. I can't tell you how we celebrate rain here. You have no idea how desperately we need rain in California. And I'm happy, by the way, just let you know, we're happy to receive. If you want to send us your rain or snow from wherever part of the world you're in, you might have too much, just send it over to us, okay? We'll do a little rain dance here to kind of make it appear. And Gear from Norway, wow. Okay, it's freezing, I bet, and I bet it's really cold in Norway, right? Spanish Institute, hola, ¿cómo te va? And thank you for joining us. Muchas gracias. So, guys, we're going to do some critiquing here in a minute. I'm going to do this right now because I always forget this, but I want you guys to, if you haven't done so, subscribe and enable the bell so you don't miss any of our new episodes. And while you're at it, hit the like button. It seems like Google really likes it when they see a lot of likes. There you go. And you know you're going to like the show, so you might as well like it right now. Okay, good. Well, we're going to look at your photos in a second. But meanwhile, let me introduce myself. I'm Marc Silber. I'm an author, photographer, educator here in Carmel, California, and it's great to have you guys with us. Our sponsor, we love these guys, Bay Photo. You can get anything printed there that you want. So go over after the show and get something printed. You can get 10% off on your holiday photo gifts. They're not just cards, but you can get all these other cool things too, as you see here. And you're going to get 10% off. And as always, 25% off on your first order. Just take my word for it. You want to make prints and Bay Photo. Some of our biggest stars on our show, Bob Holmes, Scott Kelby, Chris Burkhart, Bambi Cantrell, they all use Bay Photo Lab. And if they use it, you guys should use it, okay? So take a trip over there. All right, well, Jared, we're going to get started here. So why don't I just head over to the first image? And muchas gracias, Institut de Español, or de España, I guess. I need more practice. Necesito muchas practicarme español. Okay, Jared, what are we looking at? I have this sneaky suspicion. I'm getting a ping here, and I don't hear you, that you're not you're out of the green room, so I don't know why that's showing up there. Let's see. But I don't hear Jared, so something is awry here. It says you're in the green room, but I don't think you are, but I'm going to check anyway. Let's see. It says remove from the green room. Okay. Well, Jared, I don't know what's going on here because we've got your screen there, and that should allow you to hop out of the green room, but for some reason, let's see what's going on here. Now, sorry folks, we're having a little technical difficulty. I see the problem. Now we've got Jared. Okay. There's two different places we got to get.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, now we can hear you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Technology, it's wonderful, isn't it? We were just talking about how great it is. We can do all kinds of things, but it's still stubborn.
Two spots for you to be. Okay, good. So let's get you assigned here. There we go. Now I got to go back to this and get that set up. And there we go.
In case anybody is wondering, there is a link in the description to the AYP Club. That's where you can go and you can put your photos. If you're watching live and you haven't submitted your photos, I keep an eye on the AYP Club, so you can ask to join, and I'll approve you, and you put your photos up, and we might still get to it this show. So,
yeah, that would be awesome.
So this is from our friend Gear. I believe that's how you say it. So I made this picture of a rock in June but it didn't feel right when I was finished developing it. Maybe my inner vision and the results weren't matching. Now, months later, I have a better feeling for it. It's a large format paper negative. The cropping is a function from the homemade adapter.
Wait a minute. A large format paper negative. Aha.
Yeah. And if you have more
That's pretty
questions, I know
spectacular.
he's in the comments section, so if you
So
want to
tell me how
expand
you're.
on that.
What camera are you making paper negatives with? Because that just took this completely and changed my whole point of view on it. And I see, yes, we're seeing the edge of the frame. That's pretty cool. I'm curious what camera you're using, so put that in the comment. Well, it's it's an interesting grainy, gritty. It's not grainy, but it's gritty because of the granite. Looks like a sliced chunk of granite, and it's what I would call a sort of a texture photograph that could, this would fit in with what Dan calls a transition photograph or part of a story. In itself, it doesn't really. There's no real story here. There's just kind of this. Here's a slice of gritty granite. If it's a standalone photograph, we need more. 5x7 adapter from a 4. Wow, that's pretty amazing. Paper negative. What paper are you using for your negatives? Let's see here. Gears giving us some info. Yeah, it's from a 4x5 camera, but a 5x7 adapter. That's interesting. I'm curious how that all is fitting together. Maybe you could.
That's quite the setup that you've got there.
Yeah. Okay, well, there you go. So, yeah, it's again, it's a piece of a story the way I see it, and it's kudos to you for shooting this with a paper negative and a 5x7 adapter on a 4x5 camera. That's pretty wild. I mean, that's pretty cool. So, keep photographing. I want to see your other works. That'd be really awesome.
And
It's
I
a
like
form
how
of
he
spree.
said that it grew on him over time, because that's so true. Sometimes you take a photo and you don't like it right away, and then later you're like, you said that with your Mexico show.
Yeah, that's
That
true.
you had photos like that.
That's right, for sure. So good one. Keep going with that project. I want to see more of it as we advance through our. We're going to be doing a series of critiques over the next 3 weeks, by the way, and so you could add to it if you'd like. The adapter's 3D printed. Wow.
Yeah, so he 3D printed it. Wow.
Now I'm even more impressed. That's getting more and more amazing all the time.
You
Be-
should put pictures up of your setup. Would love to see it.
exactly. That would be great if you could share those in the AYP club. I would really appreciate it. Okay, Jared, who's next?
All right, we've got our friend Wayne up next. This is a photo. He titled it "A Dog's Life." We were sitting for a cousin who was on vacation. This was the whole first day. Poor guy.
Yeah.
So it's a series of photos of him looking out the door and the window, waiting.
Very
for
familiar look for me because we have a 7-month-old puppy, River, and this would be very characteristic of something she would do. I really like the fact that it's backlit, silhouetted. She's looking out. I would say, here's my only point of critique would be, I would think it would be more interesting if you move to the left a little bit. We could see a little bit more of what she's looking at, or just kind of a more of a point of view. So sometimes it's those subtle things, because we got behind her, but Chris Burkhardt made a point of you want to take a photograph or make a photograph that shows what the person's looking at. That's one thing that can add interest to it. We can't quite see what she is looking at. There's something there and her body's blocking it. So if you move over to the left a little bit, maybe we can get an angle where we get to kind of see what her eyes are looking at and what's actually out there. And that could add a point of interest. Try that out and see if that works. But from the other qualities of the capture, and it's very interesting. I do see, it looks like, is that a person kind of over a little bit to her left?
Over
Yeah,
here,
right there.
or-
Right
I
down
think-
there. Below the pole. What is
I think
that?
I'm not sure. I think they might be like flowers or something. That might be a person though.
Yeah.
Right there.
Anyway, her head isn't quite pointing in that direction, so I don't think that's it. Um, anyway, also, yeah, you can see her tail's kind of flopped over by her right ear. So give that a shot. Just, remember to just move around a little bit, get those different angles, because sometimes, at the time you're capturing, you need a variety of angles. All right.
All right.
I'm just putting the finishing touches on a composition field guide that's going to be available
Mm-hmm.
to you guys pretty soon, that has a lot of different tips in it, and one of them is make sure you move around and shoot from different angles. So there you go. Okay, who's next?
All right. This one is from our friend Alicia in Canada, in Alberta. And this one is part of a series that they were doing where it was focusing on like the Zodiac
Uh-huh.
symbols.
Interesting.
So this is one in a series of that.
I like it. And then she's kind of got horns growing out from the branch there. And I assume that was on purpose because it's pretty purposefully placed. Obviously this is a posed shot, which is totally fine. Um, and my eyes are drawn directly to her face instantly. So the other, her arms, her hair kind of helps frame that. Her hair is like definitely framing her face. And she or you placed the hair. I'm assuming you probably did that. It'd be hard for her to do that. It's very cool. It's a cool picture. It'd be interesting to me. This is also part of a story. So it'd be interesting to see where was this story going? Where were you headed with it? And, are there befores and afters of this picture? Maybe she stood up and started laughing or whatever. And that might be an interesting thing to follow up. You could put that in AYP Club, your series there. Good one.
All right.
Oh, okay.
The next one, let me pull it up. This one is from.
Oh, so Baki me said, yeah, there was a kneeling soldier below the flag. No one was out there, just a statue. She was looking at something, I imagine, but maybe just being an inquisitive puppy. Okay.
All right. This one is from our friend Amir. Middle Falls in Letchworth Park, New York. Said it was 13 seconds.
13 seconds.
Yep.
Okay.
Using an ND 1000, a 10 stop ND filter.
Wow, 10 stops. Yeah, well, that's a really great example of capturing the motion using an ND filter. Really fantastic tool. 13 seconds, you're getting a beautiful blur on the waterfall, and that's a really great landscape photograph. I mean, you've captured this fall and with all the little mist components in the bottom, and it's a beautiful photograph. I would wonder if it might just be a little more. You might get a little more punch out of it, just making it a pure black and white and processing it in Silver Effects Pro, because there's very little color in this image. And I'd recommend that. If you don't have Silver Effects Pro, you can get a free 30-day trial. Test it out. It will. I guarantee it will make it more dramatic, especially the clouds, because you can really punch up the dynamic range. You've got almost a pure white, and you've got some pretty close to pure blacks, but you could punch that up. So that would be my suggestion. But otherwise, it's a really beautiful landscape photograph. I might, depending on how pure you are as a photographer, I'd probably get rid of these little branchy things.
Oh, these.
I just probably clear them out of the way, because they tend to just they don't really serve a big purpose in the photograph, and they just tend to pull my eye off. So if you wanted to, you can certainly handle that in Photoshop or Lightroom. Okay, good one.
All right.
And that's totally up to you whether you want to do that or not.
Mm-hmm. All right, this is from our friend Christopher. A portrait of a sleeping mechanic in Mombasa, Kenya.
Wow, interesting. You know, this is a really good example of framing. It's an example of several different composition tools. One is the leading lines and the natural framing of this bench thing that he's lying on. I think that's a very interesting bench to have out in a public area or wherever that is. The color also forms another composition tool. Obviously, the red just draws you right in. And the red sandals, that's kind of interesting. And his expression is another composition tool. Notice the angle of his feet. It's like triangular. His arm is another triangle. Those are all really great composition tools that just draw your eye in. So you've woven in, and it's funny, I made this point in that composition field guide, is you're going to use these tools together with other tools. You never hardly ever find a single composition tool by itself. It's always accompanied by more than one. In this case, so we have color, we have angles, which is geometry. We have angles of even the diagonal line of the bench itself. And then his expression, so those all work really well together. The tiniest little suggestion, I would probably try, again, this is that processing thing, process out that car in the background. You're not going to get rid of it necessarily, but you could blur it. You could do that in Lightroom or Photoshop. Just blur it out of the way, because it's not really, it would be more effective if it was shallow depth of field. But you can do that in post-processing, but just blur it out of the way. I look at those tools.
Maybe he was also wanting to have it since it is of a mechanic. So
Could
he
be.
wanted that like car. Maybe that's
That's possible.
process in that.
But just from an image standalone, I look at it like this. You've got these processing tools. Ansel Adams said, look, people said, oh, your photographs are so realistic. And he said, no, they're not. You don't ever see a black sky. These are interpreted. And he interpreted them with his darkroom skills. And what we have now is a digital darkroom. So I wouldn't hesitate to interpret things according to what's going to be the most effective way to tell your story. Criticize me if you want for not being a complete purist, but none of us are. I'm sorry to say. Unless you are photographing with film, taking something right out of the camera, not cropping it, and then just doing basic processing, we are changing our images as we go. And that also makes it an art form, It's how you interpret something that is your art, and it's what we do as artists.
And even then, you've chosen the camera, the lens, and stuff, and that
Totally.
that changes things. So, literally, there's nothing you could do to make a perfect representation.
And who wants
Quote,
that?
unquote.
Man, otherwise, that's just a reproduction, and that's kind of what became photography. Was first it was viewed as just simply a reproduction device, like a lithograph, and that was how it was used for a long time, and then it eventually became recognized as an art form. Okay, good. So who's next?
We've got our good friend Sandy from India.
Sandy, I always like seeing your work.
Six pack abs.
Wow, those are some cool abs.
One.
Those are some cool abs there. Yeah, I see two different versions of this wild dancing guy, whatever he's doing. Yeah, two different ways. And there's all these. This is what you might call a juggernaut. It's sort of this unstoppable thing, maybe used, I don't know if it's being used as part of a festival or something, and then we have the guy makes it really the story. Those two guys, and you've placed them really well. The guy on the right kind of doing something with his hand. There's a little gesture there, and then the one behind him with the cloth over his shoulder. You've captured them well because they're separate from this, whatever this thing is, this Juggernaut thing. And they're not even really looking. Well, the one on the in the background is kind of looking into it, but the foreground guy isn't, and that makes it kind of even more interesting. But he's kind of in the middle of a gesture, which adds a lot of interest, and it really works well as a black and white. So Sandy, bravo, good work.
All right. This one's kind of a bit of a series, I feel like. So I'm gonna bring it
I hope
up.
you guys
This
have
is
your
from
morning coffee like me.
Yes. So this is from Maciej, our friend over in Poland.
Okay.
So this is the first time I've taken pictures of this type. I made them at home. This is my concept. What do you think? Pregnant mom and daughter. So first photo.
Silhouette.
And then there.
Very, very cool. Yeah, the silhouetting works really well. And you've done in that first photograph what Annie Leibovitz did when she photographed Demi Moore pregnant. And Demi held her hands in the places that she wanted covered up. And you've done the same thing. This is a beautiful photograph. That one right by itself. But the series is interesting. And it's interesting that you didn't make it a black and white. There's enough color in there to add. It adds interest to it. This is a very subtle, but you can see it's not a black and white. And the white background, backlit. Yeah, very cool. Good job.
All right. And then this one is from our friend Lucian over in the UK. Autumn Reflection. This
It's
is
a
in
very familiar look to
Opham,
me.
Surrey.
Yeah. Winton had a question, Jared. How do you send a picture for a review? You might just...
Send a picture. You can go into the description of this video, and I'll also put a link in chat. You join the AYP club, I'll approve you, and then submit your photo. So we still have a little bit of time. So if you're quick, you should be able to get in.
Okay, so beautiful, landscape, the fall colors, the reflection is awesome. And, it's the color, the reflection. Reflection is a cool device because it's symmetry. This is all fresh in my mind because I was writing about it last night. But symmetry in water is always an interesting point. Bob Holmes talked about using symmetry. It would be cool if there was a subject of a person or an animal in the frame. I made that point also. Sometimes you are the subject. Now, that would be a trick to get over there, to photograph yourself. If you have a friend, if you're traveling with someone, don't hesitate to ask them to be your subject in your photograph. And I made that point also in my composition book. Because you kind of got you've got a beautiful stage set. Wouldn't it be wonderful if a horse or a dog or a person walked into the frame? It would bring our eye immediately to that point. It would be a punctuation point. And there's something about live forms that just pull our attention. We're drawn to life. So, the trees are a life form, but they don't quite qualify on the same level as a mammal, let's say, or a duck. It could be a non-mammal. It could be a duck or any other life form. Mobile living form, let's put it that way. So that would be my only point. Just try to build those into your photographs. You remember Ansel Adams said, you don't take a photograph, you make one. Don't hesitate to make and build a photograph. You got the stage set, go into it, move into it. Have somebody move into it and be a director. Okay, good. Who else have we got here?
All right, we've got one, and I believe you say their name is Andyai Dip. Hope I said that right. But this is before a festival, and the photo is called The Steady Hand. So
I
it's a
love it.
particularly day before the festival. The eyes are being painted on by the artisan.
Very interesting. And it's interesting that we had Sandy. I believe those were, forms being used in a festival also. Beautiful color and the expression of the artist. It's like his creation is looking right at him, which is a really cool thing. It's got a lot of life to it because here's the artist putting in the color, and that definitely brings out life. You've done a good job with the shallow depth of field. The creation, whatever we call this, the model, the form is obviously highlighted with the light. He's a little bit in the shadow. Fine. The angle of it all works together really well. All those components you've used really well in creating a point of interest. So good job.
All right. This is from our friend Sarah, who I know we've had on in the past, so glad to see you again. And no caption with this one.
Yeah, interesting to get to see the painter at work on the landscape that we can see behind him, which is very interesting. And that's a cool shot. This is similar to that advice I gave about the dog. I would move over left or right to get more of I'd like to see his face. And you just, you have to move around. And this is just another example of using different angles. Don't be hesitant to just shoot from one angle. You move over to the left, move over to the right, maybe angle down a little bit and try that. It's hard to possibly angle up unless there's a tree you can climb in, but by experimenting with angles, you can come away with perhaps a more interesting photograph. And that's something I'd like to encourage you to do at every opportunity. And again, I just wrote that in my little composition field guide. It's just, think in terms of the variety of different ways that you can shoot. You can visualize a photograph. Like, I want a photograph of this painter, and then your next job is to just use your different tools and your angles and approaches to see where's the most effective capture of that. So you're on the right track. I would just move around a little bit more.
It looks like Sir's in chat. He says he got it with the face, but it wasn't as interesting.
Okay.
Would be interested to see it though, if you have it, if you don't mind.
And again, maybe it's just a question of waiting until you get the right expression out of that face, right? Sometimes we just have to wait. And he has a quizzical look or something. There's something on that. Photography is all about timing, and sometimes you just have to wait. Anyway, yeah, there you go. It's light and time. Okay, who's next?
Good photo though. All right.
Yeah.
This is Antonio's, who I believe is the Spanish Institute. Antonio, I believe.
Okay, bonita.
So this was taken. This is a panoramic of 3 photos taken in Mexico. The photos were merged in Lightroom, 1 second exposure to get the lagoon smooth and the clouds moving.
Beautiful, and the mountain jutting out is your point of interest. It's a portrait there of this mountain. And it's framed beautifully by the clouds. The reflection is awesome because, it's symmetry. Again, we're talking about that. You've got all the elements. You might say, well, Mark, a minute ago you were saying you want to see a life form walking into it. Well, guess what? This one works without it. There aren't hard and fast rules, and I don't want you to ever take anything I say as like, oh, well, that was a rule and you just broke it. Well, okay, sorry. We're here to break rules, not have to agree to them all the time. And in fact, disagreeing is really what's going to make you an interesting photographer. And the greatest photographers and artists have done that. But you have the subject is the mountain, and it's got a lot of life forms built around it. But it is the subject. The clouds are gorgeous, and they find them even more interesting when they're reflected there. So, muy bien hecho, Antonio. Good one. Okay.
Oh, sorry, I had myself unmuted. I had myself muted. I realized. This is from Susie, and the caption with it is my cat Spanky.
Now, Susie, there's a perfect example of what I was talking about a minute ago. I didn't see the cat immediately, and I thought, oh, it's kind of interesting photograph of a chair, But then, bam, there's your subject, there's your life form, and it really just came to life like that. So you've done a very good job of capturing this sort of dreamy look. How did you do that, by the way? What's the effect that causes this blurry, dreamy look? There's certainly ways you can do that. I don't know that you can put Vaseline on your lens, or better yet, on a filter over the lens that can do that. You can do it in post-processing. Some lenses have that built in. Anyway, it's a very interesting, dreamy look at a garden with your cat as the hero of the shot. That's a word, we could utilize. Who's the hero of your photograph? In a movie, right? The hero, or a book, that's the person that you're focused on. You can have a hero, you can have a villain. In this case, the cat is the hero. And we're always looking for that hero. It's part of storytelling. And a true story has conflict, between the hero and the villain. But, in a single frame, we don't necessarily have to have that. But here's a beautiful capture. Leading line to the cat, the interesting garden background. It works out really well. And also, bravo on the lighting behind the backlit fur. Yeah, that's really cool. Really works really well. Okay, good one.
All right. We've got a fun one here. Our good friend Bert Hindman, who has been a long time, one of the first AYP club members, and a great sports photographer. And so I show up early and I stay past the last play. Not all the action takes place on the court. You miss opportunities to be creative and tell the whole story if you don't. Side note, my baseball photo book has been officially accepted into the National Baseball Hall of Fame. Our lead president also bought copies and sent them to various MLB executives. So he's been working on that book, and we were really excited when he finished it. And so that's super awesome to hear about that, Bert, and kind of be there for your whole journey.
Yeah, Bert, well friggin' done. That's so fantastic. I need to see a copy of this book.
Yeah, Bert, I'll reach out to you, and we'll exchange on ways that we can promote your book some.
Let's get that up there. Yeah, Bert, this is fantastic. Professional photograph. Here's the coach saying something with a lot of intensity, right? And then here's this player in the foreground. Yeah, something going on there. There's stuff going on here. We don't know what it is, but it's a very interesting photograph. It's, the coach is framed by the players. There's a lot of interest there, a lot of draws your eye right into the coach. But then, that's the beauty of a really well, I won't say choreographed because you didn't arrange it, but you did in the sense of where you placed yourself. Because you have the coach really open, but framed around the coach are these players. And you can look at the body language here. You don't get the idea this is a happy moment. All right, because they're not doing this kind of thing. It's slumped over, both of them, you know. And our bodies do these things based on our emotion. And he's to me, he's like giving them some fire there. You know, maybe this is on a halftime break or something. Anyway, excellent. Bert, I want to see your book, and bravo to you. Fantastic. This is what we love to hear.
All right.
Major accomplishment.
More, I think so.
What was that?
We got time for a couple more, I think.
Yeah, a couple more.
So this is Sergey. He sent. This is the photo he was talking about that was a little less interesting.
Oh yeah. Yeah, so I was talking about just stay in the same general area because his face is still now blocked by the canvas.
Yeah, let's bring them both up.
Because that's really interesting, looking at his canvas. So that would be just move around from that same vantage point a little bit more, and then we want to see his face ideally. So that was my thought.
Yep. All right.
Okay. Cool.
Next, we have Deacon Psalmist. And so for review, one of my first shots, trying to master my GH4.
Yeah, that works really well. It's, you've got her basically filling the frame, looking at you. Those eyes are remarkable. Her expression, her very smooth skin. There's a lot of detail there, with the necklace and her patterns in the blouse she's got on, or jacket, and then a lot of texture behind her. But it works really well because where does your eye go? Boom, right to her face. Her eyes are sharp. It's an interesting expression too, because it's not a smile, it's not a frown. It's kind of draws you in, like, what's she thinking? And that also is a great way to bring your viewer into the story. Like, what is she thinking? And but she's open to you. She's not like putting up this big barrier and saying, "Get out of here." She's open, but she's not really telling you the whole thing. It's a little Mona Lisa smile there, isn't it? Almost. A little, like her eyes are a little bit smiley to me. And her face is almost like maybe she was going to smile or had been smiling. So it kind of leaves you, it is a bit of a Mona Lisa kind of effect, which is great. So good job. And black and white, of course, works really well.
Yes. All right. This one, she's Susie for the cat photo, said in Photoshop.
Yeah, okay.
They got it done.
Yeah, okay.
And then this one is from Hugo. This was caught with a Fujifilm X-T1 with a 56mm lens at f1.2.
Yeah, you've used, your interesting story, like these tourists have got a map and they're trying to figure out where they are. Familiar sight. They're using a paper map rather than a iPhone or smartphone map. I have to use these all the time. When I'm navigating around a new city, you need something to help you get around. So it's cute. It's a cute story. Like, she's looking up. He's got an interesting expression. You framed them interestingly, not so much by the points of third or what's often called the rule of thirds. It's actually slightly off. And that's, it's an interesting way to frame, because we've got a lot of space over to the left. A little bit more space than would be in the quote rule of thirds. So that's cool. And the black and white, nice tonality in the image. I see this as a picture that's part of a story rather than a standalone. It's, again, maybe there you see them walking off or walking into the frame or walking out of the frame. And maybe you're following them around and you see them in the rest of the city. So good job. I love the tonality of your black and whites there. It's well processed.
Mm-hmm. All right. And then this one is from Kosei, I believe is how you say it. He put this in after our previous review. And he said, after today's review, I realized why this image has always really clicked for me. I think it's still busy, but there's a strong element that I guess anchors the photo. Is that about right?
Oh, yeah, that's got all sorts of great stuff. So it's not busy, and I'll tell you why it's not busy. So first of all, it's several frames within a frame, and that helps you avoid any busyness, because we have obviously the boy, front and center, hero of the photograph, moving up in an angle, very interesting. The guy on the left is his own frame, holding up something. We don't even need to know what it is, but he's in his own frame, and so that keeps it from being busy. And along with him in the frame, we have the swimmers behind him. So this is all one slice here, one other frame. And then the guys on the right are in their other frame. So you got 3 frames there, adding depth and interest. But it's what makes that work so well is because they are separated by the tree. And that keeps it from all kind of banging into each other. They're very separate, interesting parts of the story. My eye goes immediately to the guy, the tree climber. Then I go to the left. That's interesting. Then I go to the right. And this is an important point of a photograph, is where does your eye travel? Think about it. Where will your viewer's eye go? And plan accordingly so that your viewer isn't bounced out of the frame. On that note, tiniest little thing that I would recommend is edge burning is important because it keeps your eye from bouncing out. Burn the top edge, right there. Boom. Just burn that in a little bit. And what that'll do is it just keeps the viewer's eye within the frame. The other edges are pretty well already got dark things in them. You could, on the top left, a little tiny bit of burning there. I would, while you're at it, I'd probably burn all the edges. Just what it does, just keeps your viewer's eye from bouncing out. It's not a big deal. It's a very tiny little thing. But that's the only suggestion. Otherwise, it's a really well composed photograph, and I think it's got a great story, a standalone story in it. Okay, I think we can take 1 or 2 more, Jared. If we have anybody left. And if you're still there, hope we didn't lose Jared somewhere along the way.
Nope, that was me. I muted myself again. Okay. I've had a bad cold, so I have to mute myself so that you don't all hear my lovely coughing. Mm-hmm. As I was about to say, we got 2 more photos that we can do, and if you have photos that you want to include this week, remember, like Mark said earlier in the show, we're going to be doing 2 more of these the next couple weeks. So get your photos in, and I'll have them lined up, and we will get to your photos.
And while we're at it, I'm going to mention something. We will be giving away photos from Bay Photo. We still have some left, right, Jared?
Yep, we got a couple left. So
we're going to give them away to some lucky person next week. Tell your friends to come, because one of you guys is going to get a photo, and bring your friends along to see you getting that photo. Okay? So I will do this on the basis. I'm actually going to pick the winner for next week. Okay. So I'll just say the one that to me resonated the most, I would pick, and we'll send that. You guys will get a link to a Bay photograph. Okay. All right. So who are these other ones that we got?
The next one that we've got, this is from Anop. And so if you're taking one more, thank you. This is my first time here. Would love to join for next time. Greetings from. Yep. So this was from last week's, and I wanted it, or the last show that we did, and I wanted to get it in.
That's a really cool photograph. I mean, it's like here's the kid looking right at us, angled body, and then the cow doing some kind of wild gesture with its eye and face. It's really a cool photograph because you kind of got them both in there. And again, that there's two frames there. We could just draw a line down the middle and get two different frames, so it keeps them from bumping into each other. But the hero of the photograph for me is the child. Second, what do you call supporting actor would be the cow, who is supporting the child is your hero, and it works really well. The colors are great. It's very interesting. A little smile. The smile is great. The eyes, all these points of interest, and you've captured it really well with shallow depth of field, so we're not distracted by what's going on behind. Good job. Excellent. All right, our last one for today, and then you guys can join us next week.
Our last one is going to be, we're going back to our friend Gear, who has another photo of another experimental thing that he did. So this is another 5x7 on a large format camera.
Oh, wow.
Experimental chemical direct positive process.
Man, you are
paper.
Awesome.
Yeah, well, so I thought we'd end the way we began with some experimental paper processing.
And is this the same photographer as the beginning?
Yep, it's same. Okay. Yep, Gear.
Okay, well, that's very interesting. You've got a positive, so you're not even making a negative. It's a direct positive, which for you guys out there, he's not photographing and then printing it. It's almost like a Polaroid, how those worked. So you peel it off and there's your positive. It's interesting. I see that you're experimenting. It's kind of got an interesting design to it. We've got the pyramid triangular shape, and then we've got this odd looking shovel. It's a very odd, I've never seen a shovel quite like that. Yeah.
It's almost like a hoe.
It is a funny looking,
but yeah,
tool, implement. Anyway, good on your experimentation. Well done. So keep going on that. Well, thank you guys for joining us again. And we are going to finish off our year with more critiquing. So please tell your friends. We're going to give away a Bay photo next week. Remember to subscribe and enable the bell. Also like, share, leave your comments. That's always cool. We do read those comments and reply to every one of them that needs a reply. Okay. As we get close to the closeout of the year, I always want to remind you that you should be setting goals for the new year. I'm setting my goals. I know exactly what I'm going to be doing this year. One of the things I am going to explore in more detail is the creative process. And we're going to do this by going back to my forte, which is interviewing really, really great photographers. I'm not going to do them live, though. It's going to be a change. I realize that there's an element when I do a live interview. It's a little different. Sometimes you need to let the interview go, and then we edit it down. Maybe we're talking back and forth before we really get to the point. But we're going to do kind of a full-length version and then an edited version. We've got some really good photographers coming up in 2022. So you guys can stay tuned for that. And beyond that, I really want you to put your goals out there. What do you want to accomplish in this coming year? As photographers and as creatives, experiment, stretch the boundaries. Don't worry about what other people think. Get your own message out there. Okay, well, thanks again for joining us. And last but not least, say it with me, will you please, wherever you are, remember to get out and capture your own images of life. Love you guys. Thanks again. Stay well, stay safe, and stay creative. See you next week.